We paused them. You guys haven't missed anything, I don't think. Owen decided to flip his Rattleclaw so that he could play both his Storm Breath and his Caryatid. He did not attack with Thunderbreak. He has now passed the turn back to Josh. And you're caught up. Josh makes a Satyr with Xenagos. And the question is, how long can Owen survive the 9/9 Genesis Hydra and the flying, trampling Atarka?
Basically, Owen just needs to draw a burn spell. He gets to chump Atarka here, go down to 3, chump Genesis Hydra, block a Satyr, go down to 2 off Elvish Wayfinder, or Elvish Mystic rather, and then if Owen draws Draconic Roar or Crater's Claws, he does win the game.
So you're not going to double block Atarka to trade for Atarka. You just want to single block and then knock the top of your deck and draw a burn spell.
I think you're more likely to win that way. If you double block Atarka, then well, it looks like Josh isn't even attacking with it, but if you double block Atarka, then you basically are hoping that you draw a dragon, and then you maybe win, but you have to chump Genesis Hydra
the fact
turns.
that there's still a 9/9 Genesis Hydra attacking you means
you
don't have many draw phases anyway. You may as well play for the win rather than for the play to stay alive.
And Owen doesn't actually lose his Caryatid here, so actually if Josh sends Storm Breath to the graveyard, Haven can get it back if Owen draws a land. Yeah.
So
also,
Josh,
Storm Breath itself is just lethal. Yeah, it just goes ultimate. So.
Oh, right. So if Owen had blocked with Thunderbreak, then he could monstrous his Storm Breath and win that way. Which means Josh decided he had to leave Atarka on defense again. Genesis Hydra keeps chipping away. Owen could attack and get through with one dragon, but can't get through with both. So he's going to be forced to play defense again, right?
Well, I guess Storm Breath wasn't technically just lethal in the sense that you would chump with Thunderbreak, and then you had to chump with the Sylvan Caryatid, but Owen did end up drawing a land. So now Owen can play his land or not. I guess he wants to be able to monster Storm Breath, so he might as well play the land, pass, and Josh can make a token. Let's see, you attack with everything. Genesis Hydra gets blocked by Rattleclaw. Atarka gets blocked. I guess Atarka has to get double blocked at this point. Because otherwise the trample... I guess you can actually just block Atarka with just Storm Breath and block Thunderbreak on a Xenagos token. And then monstrous the Storm Breath. You take 1 point of trample, you go to 6. No, you can still just switch them around, I think. Well, I guess if Thunderbreak blocks Atarka, you take 4 trample going to 3. You block a Xenagos token, you block a Genesis Hydra. There's another Xenagos token and an Elvish Mystic, so that's not great for Owen. He basically just he gets another draw step here, I think, regardless.
All right, well, Josh plays Courser of Kruthix. Top of his library now has a Whisperwood Elemental on it.
Josh is still, had he hit a land, he would have not died to Draconic Roar, but he's still dead to Draconic Roar at this point.
Yeah, and Josh does not feel like he can attack with Atarka. Owen is still able to soak up enough trample damage and crack back with this potentially monstrous Storm Breath. So Atarka's playing D. Genesis Hydra is the only attacker. Owen is obliged to chump block it, presumably with Rattleclaw.
Owen technically could double block with the dragon and monstrous Storm Breath, and then you trade Storm Breath for Genesis Hydra.
Does that help though? Doesn't he? That's the same thing with like double blocking Atarka, where he's just going to lose to the other giant monster a turn or two later.
You give up on Draconic Roar being an out, which is obviously not great. Crater's Claws is still just going to win you the game regardless. At this point, if you draw a Storm Breath, you do get to win by just attacking with everything. So,
I'm blocking with Rattleclaw Mystic.
Yeah. Given that there's a Courser in play, a Xenagos in play, and your opponent's drawing a Whisperwood Elemental, it's not like you're winning by trading away for Genesis Hydra here.
Right.
So it seems like it's better to do this. You might as well monstrous the Storm Breath.
Yeah.
You're not really going to get an opportunity to before. And Owen wants to see a red spell. A lot of different red spells winning the game here.
Yep. Owen knocks the top of his deck. Storm Breath wins it. Crater's Claws wins it. Draconic Roar wins it. What's the draw? Oh, Forest. That does not win it. Does he get another draw phase? Or is he just dead now?
I assume he does not get another draw phase. Yeah, he does not. If Josh makes a token and attacks with everything, actually, if Josh doesn't make a token, if Josh just attacks with everything, that's already enough. Because the Thunderbreak has to block the Genesis Hydra, the Storm Breath blocks the Tarka, Owen falls to 6, and then Josh has 7 other power in play, plus 2 more hasty if he desires.
He needed to draw the Aqueous form for the last match. That would have done it. Any chance you're going to miss block here?
I'm guessing probably not, but
not much chance. All right, so Josh Utter-Layton takes the 1-0 lead. Seemed like he had a deck matchup advantage, but Owen, this Green Red Dragons deck has looked just fine in this matchup in Owen's hands. He has come super close. I guess it's 2-2 in games now, and Owen has felt like he's, one draw step away from all 4 games.
These games have been really close with the red-green decks, and so far, Owen is ahead. He won the last match. I guess it's 2-2 now in terms of games. So it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening.
Owen lost his turn 4 Tarka draw. That was the game that he dropped the first time we saw this.
Well, he lost one of his turn 4 Tarka draws. He had multiple, despite having one Tarka in his deck.
All right, fair enough.
Which is kind of impressive, because Josh has way more Atarkas and ways to cast them on turn 4, so it's kind of funny that Owen's the one who's getting there.
Whew, yeah. Big picture here, Owen's still up 2-1. So Owen, even if he loses this next game, loses this match, they still get a 5th match. That said, Josh will be a lot happier sending it to match 5 than being down.
And Josh's hand is fantastic here. 3 Elves and a Genesis Hydra is a much better ratio than his last couple hands of 2 Elves and 2 Hornet Queens or what have you. Owen's got lots of Elves too, but he's lacking the actual dragons. He has Draconic Roar. He just doesn't have a big finisher. If Owen draws a Storm Breath or something, this is a perfect hand for it.
Yep. He's got to decide whether to play Draconic Roar or Caryatid here.
If he plays Draconic Roar, he's not able to play a top deck dragon. And I think that might be the tiebreaker.
Hornet Queen is the draw for Josh. Owen did sideboard in Plummet, basically, to kill a Tarka. Not very good against Hornet Queen, though.
So Josh can play Elvish Mystic and Rattleclaw, but one thing I think dissuading him from doing that is the barrage of boulders that he got wrecked with in the first match. If he plays face-up Mystic, then barrage is kind of a beating, whereas if he plays face-down Rattleclaw, at least he's protected from that for a turn.
So yeah, he goes face down Rattleclaw. Playing around the barrage, of course. Owen does draw the Storm Breath Dragon.
That's the card he was looking for.
Yeah, he let the elf live just in case he was going to top deck Storm Breath Dragon.
Got to play your outs. So Josh, unable to play something giant this turn.
Ugin.
He can play a Scryland and just play another elf, and I guess just concede to that he'll lose a lot of creatures to Barrage here. Barrage is just going to get him really good this game no matter what. Like, if he plays Hornet Queen, Barrage is still very good against him, so I don't know that you get much better. I guess maybe you could play a big Genesis Hydra this turn. How big can you have 3, 4, 5, so you can play Genesis Hydra for 4? That doesn't sound very exciting.
What else is he going to do?
Mystic.
Elf and a Scryland?
Yeah, and then next turn you have enough mana for Hornet Queen. Or potentially even Ugin, right? Yeah. Problem is, if you get to 6 this turn, then next turn you're only still at 6.
True.
So I don't think it gets better. I think Barrage is just going to get you here.
He's going to go Elf in a Scryland. He wants to get to 7 or 8 next turn. He gets to 8 next turn, right? He can play Ugin.
He can, except I think Owen's gonna Draconic Roar that face down creature.
Sure. Well, he was.
He drawing Thunderbreak obviously makes it a little more interesting, but if you Draconic Roar the face down creature, then you prevent Josh from getting to 7, which is just huge.
Okay. Owen sees that, takes the 3 damage from the Draconic Roar, kills the Rattleclaw, does get to play Sylvan Caryatid with this line, and attacks for 5. Does Josh want to trade Elves? I'm going to guess no.
Seems like you cannot trade Elves. Josh really needs to draw
it's
like
8 versus 9. It's a pretty relevant life total break.
It's true, but you're struggling to get to 7 here.
Yeah, he's going to be at 6 right now. Thinking about it. I'm with you. I think you have to take it. It's pretty painful, though.
I think you just hope that Plummet's on top of your deck, and you can do that. I guess Josh is fine trading here.
Yeah. Oh, Tarka. Man, Owen's, yeah. Draconic Roar was absolutely required there for Owen. Time to see how lucky Josh can get with a Genesis Hydra. It's for 3. He does not get the Nylea's Disciple. I'm not even sure he wanted it anyway. Gary did. It's pretty important.
So now Josh is a land away from being able to hit his 7. Owen attacks him down to 5 and plays a Thunderbreak. And then if Josh draws a land, he can play Hornet Queen and presumably not be dead. But Josh has to draw an untapped land this turn. All right.
Survey says no.
Josh
is just dead to the Flyers now, right?
Yeah, blocking with the Elf did not work out. I don't know if it was right or not, but in this particular case, it was not what you wanted.
Right, he'd be on 4 instead of 5, but he'd be playing a Hornet Queen right now.
And in come the Dragons.
Yep, 2 Flyers. On to game 3. Owen Turnwald now 1 game away from winning the Standard Super League. So holding on to the first place that he has been in ever since we started, pretty much. Interesting games. Again, his Green Red Dragon deck in his hands looks just fine in this matchup.
Yeah. These games have all been very close.
Fun Magic to watch, too. I mean, Owen's obviously coming out with a more aggressive deck, and every game feels like, can Josh turn the corner? Can Owen shave the outs away? I don't know.
It has. I guess the Jeskai deck is the only deck where that dynamic is reversed, where Josh was playing Jeskai against Dobson. Every other game, it's just, can Josh stabilize before Owen kills him?
Neither one of these draws accelerates very quickly. Can Josh keep 1 Scryland on the play? No, he decides.
Can Owen keep 2 lands, 2 2-drop removal spells, but he needs to draw more. He needs to draw 2 more lands. He gets to kill 2 of Josh's things. Against a mulligan hand, well, this hand's a lot better, yeah.
Yeah, so both players mulligan into much more reasonable hands.
And had Owen gotten to scry off the new rule, he would have kept Storm Breath on top, so he's the same. Let's see what Josh draws. Josh would have scried that to the bottom. I think Owen's actually in really good shape here. He's going to have a turn 3 Storm Breath again.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, yeah, he gets to play Rattleclaw face down, and then he has turn 3 Storm Breath regardless of what Josh does. Elvish Mystic, a turn too late here to accelerate Josh. And he's drawing a forest, it looks like. The only upside of this for Josh is that Owen is a little far away from casting Atarka, but even then, Owen can flip, cast Storm Breath, attack for 4, and then next turn he can just cast Thunderbreak if he doesn't draw a land. And if he does draw a land, he can, well, still just probably cast Thunderbreak, but potentially just cast 2 more mana accelerants and just cast Atarka.
Now, is there some line where Owen goes face down Rattleclaw plus Caryatid to get to Atarka?
So he can flip. So if
that gets him Atarka next turn, right?
He can play both, and then he'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, he can have another turn for Atarka.
Wow. So he has to choose between turn 3 Storm Breath, followed probably by turn 4 Thunderbreak, or develop his mana and have turn 4 Atarka.
The cool thing for Owen is that he knows Josh can't kill any of his creatures, so he knows that he's safe if he just plays the Rattleclaw into a Sylvan Caryatid. I
That's
find
what
it
he's
very
doing.
funny that Owen has had 3 turn 4 Atarkas when he has 1 Atarka in his deck and has less mana accelerants than Josh. I guess they have comparable amounts of mana accelerants, but Josh has 3 times the Atarkas in his deck. Josh isn't dead. It's just he needs to draw really well from here because we know he's drawing a Rattleclaw next turn, and Owen has enough mana to play a bunch of dragons over the next 3 turns.
Flame Tongue Atarka comes down and dispatches a Polucros. Just a little bigger than the Flame Tongue fights from years ago. Giant Flying Dragon. Josh has beaten this previously, but his hand's kind of out of gas this time around. Owen Turtenwald wins this game. He is our first Standard Super League champion. He's going to be attacking this turn with not just Atarka, but presumably also Stormbreath Dragon. I mean, I guess, yeah. I mean, he could be holding back against Ugin, but he can see the top card of Josh's library. It's face up because of the Courser. Crunch.
Yeah, and at this point, Josh is.
It's just over, right? We can see it. The Rattleclaw is the top card. Now there's a Caryatid coming. Wow, just like that. Owen goes for turn 4 Atarka. Turns out turn 4 Atarka, pretty good. Red-Green Dragons is victorious. Owen defeats the Devotion deck 2 different times with his Red-Green Dragons deck. Congratulations to Owen Turtenwald. We should definitely get him in for an interview. Talk to Owen about how these games played out and what he was thinking when he put things together. But Owen is the champion. Seemed like he earned it over the course of the season. He won more weeks than anybody else by 2. He well, I guess these were the only multiple champs. Our finals wound up being I guess Owen had 3 week wins, Josh had 2. Owen had by far the most points because he also had a couple of second places. He was impressive all season long, and now he's the champ. All right, we are going to take a super quick break, and we will be right back. We will have Owen Turtenwald in the booth, and we'll chat with him about winning the first Standard Super League. Stay tuned, guys. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody, and congratulations to Owen Turtenwald. Good job, buddy.
Thank you.
What were the key moments here for you? Walk us through the matches from your perspective.
I would say the most exciting match was the third match, Game 3, the Heroic versus Abzan Aggro. That was crazy. I thought I had it in the bag when I had hit, like, God's Willing into Aqueous form, but then I had to try to play around Ultimate Price and Dramoka's Command and Abzan Charm and just found a way to top deck out of it.
Yeah, now there was a point there where you got your creature double blocked by basically Fleece Mane or Rakshasa Death Dealer. You got to kill your choice of them, knowing that there's a God's Willing on top of your library. Were you thinking at all about, Brimaz versus Tasigur versus what color creature he might be able to play next turn?
No, unfortunately, I was not. I didn't have the forethought to consider that. What I just thought of was which of the 2 creatures is better, and because he had all pain lands, I thought the Death Dealer was not going to be particularly relevant. I guess if I had thought about that, I mean, it's probably a coin flip. I mean, it's probably better to kill the Death Dealer because the people who play Tasigur usually only play 1 or 2, but the people who play Brimaz play 3. So given that they're probably roughly, the Tasigur probably shows up a lot more often. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you can expect more Tassigers overall in opponents' decks than Brimaz is.
Yes, you can. There will be more Tassigers in deck lists, but there will be maybe more Brimazes in the people's decks that have Brimaz.
Yeah.
So I mean, it probably just breaks out to be exactly even.
And going back and knowing what you know now, what would you have chosen?
I don't know, flip a coin or something. Like I have no idea. Honestly, Josh seems like a Brimaz type of guy.
As in, he's a 3/4 with vigilance who never wins tournaments.
No, that's not what I would say.
What Luis would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, that match did seem crazy. And you were way, way far ahead. Obviously, he had the Bramaz, which all of a sudden you weren't winning, but you top decked the Aqueous form after like scrying through 4 cards and going through 5 draw steps. Finally, the Aqueous form came up to give you the win.
The second game was crazy. When I had him down to 1, and I just needed to draw like any creature or God's Willing type card, and I just draw a land, scry land to the bottom, draw a land, scry land to the bottom, and I went from 24 to 0 from just a Fleecemane line, and just watched hopelessly as he was at 1 life. That was crazy.
Yeah, those are great matches. Great matches to watch.
For me, the story of the finals boiled down to fringe sideboard cards that I had never even cast until now. It was Barrage of Boulders and it was Aqueous Form, and yeah, I mean, if you after an entire season of playing Abzan Megamorph and beating people with Den Protector and Raptor, if you had told me that I would have cobbled together wins with Aqueous Form and Barrage of Boulders, I would not have believed you.
Hey, whatever works, right?
I mean,
now walk us through the deck choices. You obviously got to watch the semifinals last week. I don't know if that had any impact on your mind about the way to approach Unified Standard and what 3 decks and sort of what cards would be watching from the sideline versus which decks it made the most sense to play.
I both didn't watch last week and didn't look at either of the deck lists from either of the players. So
fair enough.
You didn't want to taint the well.
yeah. I wanted to go in pure and have it be an even fair match. No, I mean, what my thought process was, I picked Abzan Megamorph because I thought that deck would give me the best chance to win any match. Because given that it's Unified Standard, my opponent would probably have 1 to 2 decks that were crippled and not as powerful as they would have been in normal Standard. So I figured if I had one deck that I knew was great and got to play it against one of their weaker decks, I would have a big edge. And then I just filled out my other 2 decks with whatever cards were legal. I figured Ramp and or Dragons was fine. Like, Ramp decks have been successful all season, as have Dragon decks. And so the shell of Mystic, Elvish Mystic, Rattleclaw Mystic, Sylvan Caryatid is clearly great. And Stormbreath Dragon, Thunderbreak Regent, Goblin Rabble Master, Draconic Roar is also clearly great. And so I just mashed those 2 together into a deck. And that's the deck that I got 2 of my wins with. Yeah. Even though it's not wise to play Sylvan Caryatid and Goblin Rabble Master in the same deck, and I knew that, I just did it anyways. I was like, they're both really, really good cards, and if I draw the cards that are really good against the decks that they're really good against, then I'm going to win, and if not, then I will draw.
Yeah, you Dragon versus Devotion because your coursers were already taken by the Abzan deck?
Yeah, all of the other builds of Red-Green Dragons usually will play either Deathmist Raptor, Den Protector, or Courser. They all play one or the other, but not both. And since those were all in my Abzad deck, I just had to say screw it and play something else instead.
Okay, but then go ahead.
I was just surprised that all your guys' deck list did look like pretty normal deck list you would see in a tournament. Like, you chose decks that didn't overlap in a form, whereas last week we saw both players like splitting up Thought Seizes and stuff that would not normally fly.
Yeah, my heroic deck is probably not at all standard, and I actually kind of thought that it was likely that one of his decks would be mono red, so I just polarized my heroic deck to be as good against mono red as possible. So I played 4 Laguna Band Trailblazer, 4 White Ordeal, 4 Johnny's Presence, and was just like, if I play against mono red, I'm going to win 100%. And if I wanted to make it so that I had my Abzan deck, which I thought was great, and then my other matchups just to be as polarized as possible, so that I would either win or lose for sure. And then if I won with my Abzan deck and got a free win with one of my other 2 decks, then I could choose of the 3 left based on what he had, what I felt had the best matchups across the board.
Now, when you come to that fourth match and you're trying to decide, how did you wind up deciding to play the Dragons deck?
Well, I looked at my 3 decks, and I looked at them against his decks, and I kind of labeled his decks as Abzan Aggro, Red Green Devotion, and a Jeskai Burn deck. And I figured he probably knew that his 3 decks were going to be good against Abzan Megamorph, and it looked like they didn't line up particularly. Like the Megamorph deck is definitely not good against his Burn deck, and it's disadvantaged against Red Green Devotion. So it's kind of only good against if he picks Abzan Aggro. So I kind of thought that wouldn't be one of his choices. And my heroic deck was like bad to even against the Abzan Aggro. It has to be bad. I saw Self-Inflicted Wound, Mokus Command, Ultimate Right, Abzan Charm. So I knew it was going to be bad against Abzan Aggro and like a flip against Red Green Devotion and bad against Burn. But my Red Green Dragons deck, I felt advantaged or even against all 3 of his decks. So
Worked out. Last question on Unified Standard. Dig Through Time did not make any of your lists. Was that something that you felt bad about, or you're just like, this is the way it worked out. I guess I'm not playing Dig Through Time?
Yeah, purely coincidence. I mean, I knew the problem is if you play Dig Through Time, you have to play Hero's Downfall. That's just how it's been in Standard, unless you choose to play a blue-white deck, which is not good. You just have to play Hero's Downfall and Thoughtseize with your Dig Through Time. Hero's Downfall is taken already. So I wasn't about to make a random blue-white or Esper kind of just a weaker deck just to play Dig Through Time. I mean, obviously that card is great, but it's not great enough that I was going to purposefully play a bad deck just to play it.
Fair enough. Things seem to have worked out great for you. I mean, it's been fun watching the whole season long. You've played great Magic. You've been winning the most. I don't know. It feels like a fitting end to the first Standard Super League to have you as our champion.
Well, I'm glad you think that. I know 7 guys who don't think that.
Well, I mean, fair enough. I'm just like the dramatic narrative of the season kind of makes sense when you look back on it.
Well, I played some super exciting matches, really fun, interactive, and I'm honored to have been chosen to play in this group of guys. And I mean, if you just look at them, it's just a murderer's rows of just excellent players, top down. And so, even just being chosen to play with these guys, I'm excited.
Awesome.
And to just cherry on top.
I think it's funny that in both the Standard Super League and the British Super League, the person who most dominated the regular season actually ended up winning, because Ifro also was undefeated until he was a lock to make top 4 of the vintage, and then you were of course ahead. Like we mentioned in the pregame show, you were ahead every single week, starting with week 1. At the start of week 2, you were tied. Every other week after that, you were the only leader.
Yeah, I was slacking that week.
You did fall short of your self-proclaimed goal of 200 points.
Yeah, I was trying to get to 1,000, but you guys wouldn't let me get any points in the finals. I assume my wins were worth 600-700 points each this time.
Something like that.
You're welcome to make up whatever scoring method makes you happy. You got the win. That was the only one we were keeping track of.
Oh yeah, super. I mean, in the regular season, most of the matches I played, I won the die roll, and that was heavily influential. And I kind of felt the tides turning. Like if you look at the 3 decks that I picked and you match them up against the 3 decks that Raptor played, he got good matchups in all 3 of the rounds. Like he would pick to have all of those and he won all of the die rolls all 3 of the rounds. He even said in the Skype chat, he's like, "Wow, being on the play is great." I was like, "Yeah, it is." But as it turned out, I was fortunate enough to get really good hands and top deck out of it when I needed to.
Not all of your hands were good. You had a lot of lands go through your hands in a couple of those matches in there.
Well, also the one game I had all mana and just drew Stormbreath Dragon right away, and he had 2 Elvish Mystic, and I drew Barrage of Boulders, and then when I was going to lose, I drew Aqueous Form. I mean, I definitely had really timely, game-winning top decks when I needed them. So
awesome.
And that's what it takes. I mean, at this level of competition, it really just is whoever draws better. It's not like I'm going to play against Josh Utter-Layton and just outplay him. I'm going to savagely trick him and make him think I have this in my hand and next level bluff him into conceding. And it just doesn't happen. I mean, he's great. He played great. It just I happened to draw a little bit better. So
That's how you get the number 5 next to your name.
I think there's a little more to it than that, but I do know what you mean. I think that's going to bring us to a wrap here on the Standard Super League. Congratulations again to Owen Turnwald. Thanks, Luis, for joining us the whole time. Next week, guys, come back for Vintage Super League. We'll be starting up a Vintage Super League. We'll be playing that for the rest of the month of July anyway. So we'll see you guys then. Once again, congratulations, Owen.
Thank you.
See everybody next week.